you some money. كيف حالكم؟
طيب الحمد لله.
الحمد لله.
You got my text.
You always send me a text around 5 o'clock. After a while, I know what
I just it's about that.
No, I could talk about this. We'll talk about it afterwards. I didn't read it, but I saw that you sent me a text. I got the gist of it. Please turn off your phones, guys. I promised that I would show you guys that book. Pass this book around. Yes, the whole series. I have the whole series. I still have the whole series.
I spell his name right.
So you can put that.
You know, you can't find this. It's hard to find this book.
I don't know.
Yeah, I look.
You know, I mean, I read it and it's been in my library since '79.
Well, I got it in the early '80s.
Yeah, you know, it's been around for a while.
Yes, it has been.
But I'm realizing now that a lot of people have not read that book.
I can't even find it.
You can find it. Google it or something.
I tried.
You Googled it?
I tried to Google it. I couldn't spell his name right. I couldn't get his name right.
Yeah, you should be able to find that book.
Yeah.
There's a series. That's just book 1.
Yeah.
You know, just recently they came out with a book 4. There was a 3-part series back in the day.
Yeah, but he has a lot of other books.
I know he does, but number 4 came out recently. I just got number 4.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but that series has been around. Like I said, I read it when I was in junior high school, and it's still relevant today.
No doubt. And I think it's required reading for all.
It should be. That's why I'm passing it out. I think it was like $10 or something like that. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفر ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Assalamu alaikum.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
How is everybody doing?
الحمد لله.
MashaAllah, barakallah fikum. All right, you guys ready for your quiz? Yes. You guys are raring, ready to go, right? All right. First thing let me do here is give back some homework. Even though this homework is not, we're not going to go over this homework just yet. Because remember, one of the things that we did, which was helpful, but again, let me back up. Learning is not just getting a bunch of facts, okay? Learning is like having the ingredients, but you still got to know what? The recipe, right? That you give, even though you got to have a certain way of putting it together for it to taste a certain way. Is that correct, ladies?
Yes.
Everybody has the same ingredients, but don't everybody make the same bean pie? Okay? It come out differently if the people know how to put the twist, whatever it is, okay? Same thing with education. You have to have a certain way you put the information together or to remain just information. Does that make sense?
No,
All right. So I gave you guys some homework based on a question that was given at that time. I don't know if you guys remember. I said, well, we're going to talk about it, but then because he asked a question, I mentioned, okay, these are the 5 ahkam plus 2, and I gave you the homework. Really, that's next week's lesson. Okay, it's not this week's lesson. But we did homework for it last week. Okay? So what was supposed to come first were those introductory mentalities. And then the next thing was supposed to come, the Qawa'idul or Maqasidul Sharia. And then the third thing is supposed to come after that is Qawa'idul Fiqhiyya, right? The 5 primary principles of the Sharia, right? Of fiqh, I'm sorry. And then after that, what's supposed to come? The 5 ahkam plus 2. Why? Do you have a pen? Okay. First, of course, it's clear why we get the mental picture first. Mentality. We get the mentality first. The mentality of how to take care of our time, you know, to be energetic, to have sincerity, right? Time management and sincerity. That's basically what we spoke about when we talk about the mentality, right? Yes or no, guys? Everybody tired today?
Yes.
All right, and then also the things that prevented us so that we can approach this with open eyes. Is that correct?
Yes.
So then after we did that, then we have to do what the objective of the Sharia came next. Now, why was that important? Because we want to begin with the end in mind. This is a statement, a phrase. Begin with the end in mind. Say that, guys.
Begin with the end in mind.
Why do we want to begin with the end in mind?
Because we want to know our objective at all times.
Because we want to be on point. We want to stay on mission. We don't want to get what? Sidetracked. So we begin with our end result. Okay? We called it in the military backwards planning.
Yes.
Okay? So we're a special forces team. We're at the place. Well, how did we get there? Oh, we were jumped in. Okay? Well, so then that tells us we need a plane to drop us in, right? So it tells us what our logistics are going to be. Logistics are the things you need. Okay? And the paperwork comes along with that. That's a different thing. That's permissions. So we have to look, and if you go backwards, back to where one, now you know everything you need to get to that particular place. Because you went through it in your mind. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And then you put your ifs in there. What if this happens? And if this happens? So you can be prepared for those possibilities along the way. Education is the same way. Okay? Where am I trying to arrive at? And what do I need to be able to do that once I'm there? Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I have thought about that for a long time. And I had to do it myself, and then seeing what I did that was wasteful, so I'm not going to take you through that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And I don't want to waste your time, but I want to make sure that you get everything that you need to get in order to be competent once you get here. And my reputation's on the line. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so that I have skin in the game. That's why I'm asking if it makes sense, because my reputation is on the line. If I put this forth and said this person is complete and they're incompetent, that means his teacher's incompetent. Because he should have spotted that and corrected it. Just like the Rafida, those different Shia say, oh, these companions of the Prophet, they're no good. Really? You are a better judge of character than the Messenger of Allah? Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He didn't know his companions? You guys are getting the point? So then that would be impossible for us to say that he entrusted people who were incompetent, who were irresponsible, and not able to take the responsibility. These become mental principles. So, we have to, and I want you to know what you're doing, because they say an educated consumer is our best, customer, right? We want to be educated because we've been uneducated for so long. And when you're uneducated, you're naive. And you're able to get tricked. And we've been tricked a lot. And so we want to not be tricked anymore. So we start off with the beginning, with the end in mind. The objective of the Sharia is to be able to, at this end, protect and preserve my deen, my mind, my wealth, my... Come on, you guys are really tired today. All you guys stand up. All you men stand up.
Yeah.
Get up, man. You're the youngest guy here. You got to go do push-ups. Always the young guys moving slower than the old guys, man. Come on, shake it out, man. Not too much. Nazi, shake it out, it's fall off. Yeah? All right, sit down, guys. Come on, sit down. We got to be awake. We got to be ready for this. Okay, we got to be ready. You guys ready now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now, in order to be able to preserve my deen, my mind, my wealth, my honor, my lineage, myself, then I have to know the qawaid of fiqh, the primary principles of fiqh. Why? Because from these primary principles, all the other principles of fiqh are born. Does that make sense now?
Yes.
So what we've done, we haven't made a mukhtasar wajiz. We've made it tightened. So we brought it down. This is what I need to know because all the rest of it is born from it. Now, what does that mean? What that means is that no, I am not going to teach you every single thing about that now. But by teaching you these principles now, as I go through my lessons, I can build you, show you how everything is connected to that. And that is teaching you everything about those principles. Does that make sense? Yes. Because it's impossible to learn them in isolation. So we set it up, say this is what you need to focus on. So every time we get to a point, or when it's convenient and suitable, that we get to a point, I point to it. And then I point to it again, and I point to it. We keep pointing to it so much, you get the point of its importance. Everybody follow me in that regard?
Yes.
Okay, so in order to arrive at these objectives, then we have to understand why do we have the primary principles of fiqh. Now, how do they relate to the objectives? I have to use these principles in order to preserve and protect those objectives. Now, there's something missing. Everybody finished? I want you to pay attention. The thing that is missing is that we don't go to these primary principles of fiqh unless we only go to these primary principles of fiqh, I should say. We don't find it clearly stated in the Quran, clearly stated in the Sunnah. Then we don't have to follow any of this. Why? Why?
That's the purpose of it.
Sorry?
It's mubin.
It's clear. So the primary principles of fiqh, what's their purpose? I shouldn't have just said Quran and Sunnah. That's again another misnomer. It's not just Quran and Sunnah. What else is there?
Ijma.
Ijma. What is ijma?
Consensus of
I don't want
Ijma is the consensus of the Salaf.
Speak loud.
Ijma is the consensus of the Salaf, what they agreed upon.
What the people of the past, the Salaf, the Sahaba, and more than the Sahaba, what the believers have unanimously agreed upon. Okay? But all those things go back to these primary principles. Because these primary principles are built on that. But I'm going to show, like for example, I said what we agreed upon, right? Yes. Well, that's al-'ada yuhkam. That's unless we have a proof that it has to be. Come on, hesitation? Hesitation?
Yes.
All right then. Unless we have proof that it has to be denied, then a people's practice can always be applied. But when it's the believer's practice, it has to be applied. You get my point?
Yes, sir.
It cannot be circumvented, opposed. So a people's practice can only be applied if it doesn't oppose the believer's practice. Everybody follow that?
Yes.
You see how we run into those principles now and starting to understand them more?
Yes.
But it's not just the believer's practice, as some people think. Some of us, when we came to Islam, we thought we had to lose our total identity. Okay? And it's what took us through this roller coaster where we sometimes wanted to be someone else. It's not what's supposed to be happening. Why? Because what's the proof that it's not just the believer's practice? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, هُوَ الَّذِي خَلَقَ لَكُمْ. Come on, you know 70% of the Quran. I'm reading you guys' bios. And that's why I want to read them so I can call you to account. هُوَ الَّذِي خَلَقَ لَكُمْ. Don't whisper, man. Yell it loud.
ما في الأرض جميعا.
مَا فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا. Allah says, and this is a very impacting ayah. It is a principle. All of them are principles. But this is one that we go to a lot. Allah is the one that created for you all ma fil ard. Ma. This is a word that is general, meaning comprehensive, meaning all inclusive, meaning everything. Ma means everything. Fil ardi, in the world. Jami'an, all of it. Why do we say all of it if ma means everything? What does that add to it? Emphasizes, right? Well, that gives you more of clarity, right? So you don't doubt that it meant everything. If you had the inkling of raib, doubt that it meant everything, when he said jami'an, it added ta'kid, emphasized the point, made it super clear that everything for you is lawful, right? So unless you have a proof that it has to be denied, no, man, no. Hesitation? Yeah. You have to know these principles. You have to know them. And unless we have proof that it has to be denied, can always be applied. Does it have to be applied? No. You can choose. You have the choice to apply it or not to apply it. Another proof is this. So we need proof to say that you can't do it. Does that make sense? Right. Yes. All right. The other thing is this. When it comes to a woman's menses, let's say a woman is irregular on her menses. Okay? How do we determine the menstrual time of her menses? This becomes a fiqh issue. We go back to that principle. The people's practice is what we use to determine what is normal. We go to her women, her sisters, her aunts from her mother. And how many days their normal menses is, that's her menses. Does that make sense? Yes. And sometimes their menses will be at the same time, all around the same time. She takes off when they take off. Does everybody follow that? Yes. Do they have to be Muslim? No. You see what we're talking about here? Yes. It does not have to be that they're Muslim for that principle to be in effect. So we have to understand how to apply that these principles here are the mothers of all the principles that spin off of them. Okay, so we're not going to be rigid. We're going to understand the principles, and the way you will understand it as we continue to go through the life of the Quran, the life of the Sharia, we will keep pointing back and forth to these principles and how they preserve our deen, our mind, our wealth, our honor, our lineage, and ourself. Okay? So alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. And knowing, for example, that issue of the menses, what does it preserve? Of the objectives of the Sharia. What does it preserve? It preserves herself, because now, and it preserves her mind. Allah created women a certain way. And He intended for a period of time for them to take off a certain amount of time every month. That's the way He created them. Okay? And that helps them. Even though some women say, well, I don't need to do it. Well, Allah made it that way, so you need to do it. Does that make sense? He knows you better than you. And He created it to work this way. So this helps a woman's mind. It helps a woman's self, physical self in that particular regard. And that's the preservation bearing. Yes, ma'am.
So are you saying that if a woman's mens is irregular to the effect that she doesn't have one every month, she should all take off?
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying if a woman has, what I'm saying is that when a woman has what we call irregular bleeding, which is called istihada, meaning she doesn't have a break from the bleeding. Okay? So she's bleeding more than the normal time that it would be for her menses. Okay? Then all that time is not her menses. Okay? The time for her menses is the time that her women folk normally take for her menses, their menses. Does that make sense? And all the rest of that time, we consider that istihada. So she can pray and do during that other time. She does, just because it's irregular, meaning istihada, not having it. Does that make sense? Okay. Alhamdulillah. So, the primary principles of fiqh are only to be used in the absence of proof. Proof being from the Quran, the Sunnah, and Ijma, the agreement of the believers, what the practice of the believers are, which makes it important for us to understand what the practice of the believers were. Okay? That becomes an issue. And it's not as black and white sometimes. It's not as black and white. So we have to look at sometimes who we're taking that information from. And if there's an issue of difference, then it's not ijma, is it? You guys get the point? If there's ikhtilaf, then they didn't agree upon it. Simple as that. But most people miss that point. Okay? Serious. And sadly, some books have ijma, but there is no ijma in that particular thing. So again, we have to go find out who the scholars are, and that take from the best of them in that particular field in order to establish our foundation in those particular things. So everybody follow that?
Yes.
Now, those primary principles are normally called for what we call new occurrences. Things that were not explicitly mentioned in the Quran, the Sunnah, and the Ijma. Okay? And that is normal because we live in a different time. So different things may happen that may not be, again, as clear when we look at the Sunnah. Because now, you notice I didn't say qiyas. Okay? Because now that becomes another issue in and of itself. Is that an issue of qiyas? Well, if it is, with qiyas and with these principles. You know, we're using an analogy based on the principles as well. We're using them to make that qiyas, to make that analogy. Does everybody follow me?
Yes.
Okay. One from that becomes the issue of what is the purpose of that hadith? What was intended, the fiqh of that hadith? So, for example, we'll say riding a horse or riding your beasts that you use. Well, do we ride beasts nowadays as a normal form of traffic? No. So what becomes your riding beast now?
Car.
Your vehicle, right? Whatever vehicle. So what is intended by riding beast is your POV, your personally owned vehicle. Whether that be a truck, a car, a boat, depending on where you live. Okay? What that vehicle is for you. And we use that qiyasan. Why? Because al-'adatul yuhkam. Because a people's practice is being applied here. Okay? What they use for that. You guys get how we're using the principles?
Yes.
So it's very vitally important for us to understand the principles and why we put qiyas, utilizing it differently. But those other three, we have to understand them. We can't understand them without the Arabic language, number one, as the first tool that we need. So we're going to get to that too. So that as we go through, inshallah ta'ala, we can understand it easily understand the Quran. It is not that hard. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said it that way. It is not hard at all. It just needs you to be in class for a little bit of time, and you will have it. And we'll be reading, and you will be explaining it. That's from a linguistic perspective. A lot quicker and easier than you believe. Inshallah. So what these primary principles of fiqh will point to what? What are we going to get out of them? We're going to get legal rulings. Legal rulings on our activities. So it points to the next thing that we should learn, or what are the legal rulings, right? That would be the next thing. And it shouldn't be that I teach the legal rulings here. Everybody follow me?
Yes.
It makes no sense in the recipe book to put the legal rulings in the mix before you put the objectives in there and the primary principles. It's like putting the ingredients, just throw them in there. We're not making goulash, right? We got to put the stuff in there. We got to set the base. I don't know how to cook, so I'm not going to talk trash. But I know how to make some pancakes. Yes, I use Aunt Jemima. I'm good at that. That's what I got. But seriously, people know how to cook. There's certain ingredients that have to go at a particular time or it's going to mess up the meal. Same thing with the education. have to put these things in their right order in order for it to become seamless and understandable. So I said all that because I want you to understand. It's not knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Okay? It's knowledge, understanding, and then wisdom. That's the actual proper way. So we give the knowledge, we give the understanding, and then from that we gain wisdom. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Stop whispering at me. You yell. All right. Seriously, you and Eunice gonna be doing push-ups. I might have to do them together. Alhamdulillah. So let me give you this homework back. We're not gonna, oh, this comes to another point before we go. As he's giving out the homeworks, I want you guys to understand another point that I'm going to make here. Insha'Allah ta'ala. It's a very big deal. It deals with spelling. Now sometimes when I'm teaching on the classroom, I say spelling don't count. Because I'm talking in the classroom and I'm trying to make a point across. However, when we're writing Arabic terms, spelling counts. Does everybody understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Why? Because one of the ways that the colonizers, the crusaders, have a trick they have used to further us away from Islam and the understandings of Islam is changing the way we pronounce words. And the way they change the pronunciation is they write it in different ways that are strange and difficult to follow any rule with. So you find us writing Hakeem like this. Is this Hakeem?
No.
What grammar are we using here? How would you say this? Hakim. That ain't no word in Arabic. That's not a word in Arabic. If you want to write it in Arabic, you have to write, meaning anglicizing it, you have to write Hakim. This is not Allah. That's Allah. Isn't it?
Yes.
And in Arabic, it's not written that way. In Arabic, it's written Allah. There's an alif saghira there, which means Allah. Attention to what?
Detail.
What?
Detail.
And what are details? Small things, seemingly insignificant, but make major differences. If I was to come here and teach your class and make little mistakes all throughout the lesson, would there be any benefit to that class?
No.
Because now you have to redo all those little differences. Attention to what?
Detail.
I'm not accepting your papers with spelling problems. Write it the way it sounds. Long vowels are two E's. No line is needed above it. O is oo. That's how we do it in the English language. Okay? The two A's is ah. Say it and you'll say it right. It's not mubah. It's mubah. Say it.
Mubah.
This is how we'll get better because listen, what do you say about a person that don't even know what they talking about? Can't even pronounce the words right. Do they sound intelligent?
No.
Do you want to listen to that person?
No.
You say, man, this guy, he don't even know how to say it right. How does he claim to know anything? You guys get my point?
Yes.
So we have to give this its proper attention. We cannot just do anything we want. This has been taught to us to sink us. And that's why we have to watch out for those writers that use these practices of the Masonic orders in order to keep them and make them seem chic. We're not following that no more. As Eddie Murphy said, we're not going for the banana in the tailpipe no more. We're not going for those tricks. We call it what it is. It's a trick. So we spell out the word. If it's A, we put two A's. If it's E, we put two E's. If it's oo, we put two O's. We sound it out. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yes.
And if you don't know how to spell it, believe me, I will correct it. Insha'Allah ta'ala. But once I correct it, I expect you to follow it. I expect you to take the correction and not be resistant and rebellious and hard-headed about not accepting correction. Because that's part of the agreement. So, and we may not understand sometimes some of the things I may say to do at the particular time, but believe me, it all is tied together with destroying the spirit of Islam. And it's all tied to bringing back the spirit and the dignity and the honor of Islam. So, let's write it the way we can sound it out, inshallah ta'ala. And I won't have to do as many corrections on you guys' papers as I did this time. Inshallah.
Tawfiq Abdul Sadiq.
I don't want you to do it that way. Just pass it out there. If these are all the guys' ones, hand it to the guys, you take yours and then hand it back to him. That way it doesn't cause a disruption. Inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Okay, so now what we're going to do is time for our... I wanted to finish that outline. I'm going to put it back on. So the first thing we did was the mentalities, right?
Yes.
Then after the mentalities, we put the objective.
What did we say the mentalities were?
The introductory. The introductory mentalities. The mentalities were, what is the key to knowledge? You said it, right, Hassan?
Yeah, the key to knowledge is to remove ignorance from yourself.
No, that's not the key to knowledge. What's the key to knowledge, guys?
The key of knowledge is fear of Allah.
The key?
Know what to do.
No, it's not. Listen to what he said. What is the key to knowledge?
To have true
Don't give us a half sentence, Eunice.
The key to knowledge is to have true legitimate fear.
To develop a true, legitimate, that's one of the mentalities. Okay? What are the two biggest blessings that we have that we don't take advantage of? Free time and our health, right? These are some of the mentalities that we're talking about. Is that understood? If we're told to take advantage of what 5 things?
Youth before age, free time before being busy, wealth before becoming impoverished.
These are our mentalities. Okay? How many types of knowledge are there?
2.
Give me full sentence, guys. What are they? What is one called?
Objectives.
The tools, and the tools are considered what?
The things you need to get the objective.
The skills and the prerequisites, okay? These are the skill set and the prerequisites that we need in order to operate in the field of the objective, okay? Does everybody follow me?
Yes.
All right. And the objective is what?
Tafseer.
And what is tafseer? Tafseer is? I'm sorry? Tafsir is the explanation of the Quran. But what we put here is to say what? To understand what Allah wants us to know when we read the Quran, right? To be able to, when we hear the Quran, understand what that means in its proper context and to be able to apply. How does Allah want us to apply that? That's all tied with the tafsir. Even though we've gone beyond tafsir to tadabbur, the Quran, because we're told to do that as well. Does everybody follow me?
Yes.
And in order to do that, we have to learn these particular skills, okay? When we call them tools because that's what they are. We use them in pulling out and extracting that tafsir from the Quran. Does everybody follow that?
Yes.
Okay. So we go to the objectives of the Sharia, which is to preserve and protect my deen, my mind, my wealth, my honor. And then after that, in order to do that, we use the principles, the primary principles of fiqh in order to do that, and then we get out of that legal what? Rulings concerning or regarding
Our activities.
right, our activities. Now, 1, 2, 3. The fourth one here is the usul adab of the talib al-ilm. fundamentals. Come on, guys. Why, after all these things, we jump right off to that, a specific thing?
Because he needs to know
Preparation for
that.
طالب العلم.
Say again, Chef.
That is the preparation for طالب العلم to stay.
So it's the preparation for to study, because now we're not, this is for any subject that we're going to study, right?
Yeah.
And also this is for any subject we're going to study too. You have to know how a Muslim student is expected to think and act, right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
You have to have some type of standard of behavior as a talib al-ilm. Or else you do what you like. Everybody does their own thing. Haven't we seen that spell out? It's all the time, and then that's not healthy. That makes people want to stay away from you. But at least if we know what the usul, what the fundamentals of a talib al-ilm is supposed to be, we can now recognize when someone is not that. We can know and say, well, this person, he says it, but his activities belie him. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So we can know and recognize. When Mama used to take us to the store, she used to tell us, this, you thump this particular fruit to tell if it's healthy or if it's like, you smell the what is it called, the red ones? The tomatoes, you smell the vine. If the vine smells good, then the tomato's good. You get my point? And you learn particular things about how to pick the proper fruits and vegetables that are healthy and how to recognize when they're not healthy, right?
Yes.
Same thing here. Once you learn it, now you can recognize when someone is lying, when someone is perpetrating a fraud. And then what you can do, once you learn the adab, you learn the 4 days of the talib al-ilm. Okay? I'm jumping. I don't want to jump. Because I saw it. Somebody said, what, 4 days? Oh, I mean, no. It's part of this lesson, but we got to get through here first. We have 2 more lessons before that. 1 more lesson before that. Okay? The next one after that is the 10 first questions.
First 10 questions.
The what?
First
First question.
And that's where we started, right?
Yes.
I said, well, let me just be cheap. Let me start here. But that's not fair to you. That's not fair. So that's why this comes, you know why this comes last? And then we close the book. We close the book at that time, and now we're ready to do what? Study. Now we're prepared. You get my point?
Yes.
This is just to get us in the classroom. All right? Because like everything, what did the Salaf used to say? We used to learn how to study before we went to study. We've lost that. So we reel it on back, man. We're going back. And we're not. And hey, and unless you have proof that it has to be denied, that a people's practice. All right, so can always say, understand. Know what I mean? So then we go to the 10 first questions, and we establish that, and we learn. We say, now we take all the stuff, we close it up, we have that book, and we can refer to it if we forget. And then if we have a student that acts otherwise, and I ask that student, well, so what's the objective of the shit? And he doesn't know, then I can say, get out, go to that circle over there until you learn the fundamentals. You get the point?
Yes.
You're not ready for this class. You see how we set a standard? We achieved the goal, and now we can repeat that over there. And I don't got to teach it. We got 30, 40 people that can teach that. That was the fundamentals that everybody should know. Capiche? You see how we're moving with this?
Yes.
And we're going to do that on every level. And that's what we should be doing. Okay? There has to be a natija, a product. And if we're not producing something, then we ain't doing nothing. Talking loud and ain't saying nothing. Yes, ma'am.
Would you please repeat numbers 4 and 5?
Not wise.
I am confused between what you said regarding legal rulings and number 5, the usul, the 5.
Okay, what happened is, I believe what happened is that when we get to mentalities, you notice I didn't put a number to mentalities.
Yes.
I said introductory.
Yes.
Whenever you open a book, usually there's an introduction. That's the introduction. We don't even count that. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
That's the introductory mentalities. That sets your mind straight right off the top. Then number 1 is the objective. Number 2 are the primary principles of fiqh. Number 3 are the legal rulings. The 5 legal rulings plus 2. Plus 2. Number 4 are the usulul adab, the fundamental manners and mentalities of the students of knowledge. And I said manners and mentality. They have to. If we just put manners, people don't get it. It's a mindset that has to be held, and it's not something you turn on and turn off. Once you get it, this is the way you're supposed to be. Did you know there's a code of ethics for doctors?
Yes.
Okay? So I remember being in school and we had to talk about the medical manners. Did you know if you were do any type of strange behavior, you're supposed to lose your medical license? Did you know that? If you're known as a public nuisance, if you're known for having strange sexual practices, homosexuality, bestiality, you're supposed to lose your medical license. This is what it says in the books. So, yeah, straight up, just like that, and it hasn't changed. So, every science that's lofty have public manners that go along with it. If you become known as a public menace, we can't take hadith from you. You can't narrate. You can't speak on behalf of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Because we talk adlun dabitun. Okay? He has to be upright in his deen, and he has to be a community personality, not known for being in public scandal. Is that not saying that the kuffar and the haters are going to say something about him, but he can't be one actually doing that stuff that they say. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So are we going to have an imam that's known for rape?
No.
What about the mu'adhin?
No.
You guys get my point?
Yes.
So the person has to have, adala, okay? Well, istiqama, at least publicly in his deen. And that is what we're talking about when we talk about the usul al-adab. I know I said I was going to go there, but you guys started me.
Just want it.
Sorry?
Just want it.
Do push-ups.
For real?
Yeah, go push-ups, man. Go help them too. Both of you. Come on. Hesitation, you're going to do more. You guys keep hesitating.
All right. I don't know, man. Come on, man.
I want to see you. Don't go too far. I feel like I'm doing something. All right. Usul al-adab of the talib al-ilm. And then the 10 questions go next. So we're going to cover these things. After the usul al-adab, the 10 questions comes fifth. And the 10 questions are like a precursor. You're tipping. It spills into the next science. Okay? Hop up. Come on. It spills into the next science, because once we get there, now we apply it on the science that we're doing. Does everybody follow that? Yes. And every time we switch to science, we go back to the first 10 questions. So everybody follow that? Yes. Everybody understand that? So we always gonna use this, and we always start again, whatever science we're studying, with the first 10 questions. So now it's teaching you something. Whatever science you take, right? You're going to start off with the first 10 questions. And I know that's how the poem starts. I don't want to get you guys started because I don't want you thinking about that right now. Okay? What I want you to think about as you take out your papers and write down the primary principles of fiqh. Everybody take out a piece of paper. Put your name and the date on it. And please write for me the primary principles of fiqh.
Is today the 30th of Shawwal?
Why are you asking me? You guys should know. Ask your companions.
What?
Yes, bro. Yes.
You didn't see the moon last night?
Did you see it? Because I was going to say, man, if you saw it, then we have to go like that.
Yeah.
But we should go see every night. Sometimes we only go like twice. You know, Sha'ban and Ramadan. Oh no, not the 3 times. Let me go for Dhul Hijjah as well.
What format do you want it in, the poem or?
Poem. I want it in the poem. I want the poem.
Whatever science.
No, that's not what I was saying. That's the 10 first questions. I want intentions, we'll decide. I want a poem that starts off intentions, we'll decide the rulings of an act.
Yeah, keep going. Keep going.
Right. No. Write it down, please. Go sit down. And don't play around the camera. I mean, you could play over there. Let her play over there, but just not around the camera. Did you write it down? Okay. Oh, what are you doing? If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying, huh?
Why did you put it there?
Because I'm trying to be ahead of the class. 30 seconds. Okay, pens down. Everybody look up. Now to stop, ladies, who was able to finish, congratulate yourself. Who was ever not able to finish, you know, sorry? No, it's a quiz, it's not a test, it's a quiz. All, failure is part of learning, okay? Part of this test is regurgitation. You get it in, you have to get it out. Getting it out is part of the class, not a problem. What we're going to do now is a drill we used to do in Mauritania. You're going to turn around to each other and recite the poem to 4 people, okay? You're going to go to them, and they're going to look on their paper, you recite it to them. They can recite it to you without looking at their paper, okay? Meaning, you recite to them, they listen. You make a mistake, they correct. Okay? Then you go to another person and another person till you're done 4 times. I need to hear voices. Let's go. Bismillah. Come on. Yes, sir.
I got stopped. When I got
Come on, let's go. Recite. I'm listening. I got you. Let's go. I'll go with you. Yeah, recite. Go ahead.
It's never understood.
Texas, what you say?
We need dub or needs dub.
It's not a 4-man thing. You guys you stop saying it's not. You say to him while the other people are talking at the same time. Every 2 people, you never not 4 people. Come on. That's right. You guys get to get up. Let's go. Let's go. Texas inside.
It looked like you were listening.
And people practice can always be applied. I do it 4 times.
No, you're not reading it to him. You're reading it, you're doing it from memory. Whatever, that's the whole point. You're reciting from memory. He looks at his paper. You look at your paper while he's reciting it to you. You look at your paper, you say it to him, and if he makes mistakes, you correct him. Go ahead.
That's what is for sure. That is what we know for sure.
So the hardships and harms. The hardships and harms.
It cannot be denied.
Doubt is not power.
I mean, no, you have. Tell me. I'm supposed to say
Okay.
people understood. People practice the Lord will be applied.
Come on, let's go. It's not a four-lady thing. It's not four ladies on one. No.
That it has to be
Any questions from people online?
No, not yet. But do you want to start doing it? You want to
Yeah, ask them if they have any questions.
Anyone online has any questions presented to the Shaikh at this moment?
It's not all day. We're not taking a long time. Move around. Get it and go. No smoking and joking. Eat it and beat it. You do, sorry?
Relieved or eased up because it's not
Abu Anas, did you find out what you found about it? Yes. Yes, Abu Anas. Yes, I did. Between the Hanafi fiqh and really what I was looking for is to hear from a Hanafi scholar the clarity, the definitive word between their usage of fard and the usage of wajib in the other madhahib. Normally in the other madhahib we use fard and wajib interchangeably, but in some cases like the Hanabila, and in some cases, in most cases in the Ahnaf, there is a difference of the application of the word fard. That's not today's lesson, so I just was checking myself before I speak, because I'm not a Hanafi scholar. I wanted to hear from those ulama amongst the Hanafi scholars who could articulate it better than I. So I spoke to Shaykh Uthman Khan. I spoke to his brother's name is Israf. Izhar, Shaykh Izhar, and these are two Hanafi scholars who helped me out tremendously. Alhamdulillah. Come on, you guys, finish it up, wrap it up.
I think he might be on that group.
Excuse me?
I think he may be on the group.
Abu Anas?
Abu Anas.
I mean, Abu Anas is my main man.
Yeah.
We go back, 100 years.
But he said he gave you the source on WhatsApp. I don't know if you saw that.
No, which one?
On the knowledge
No, he's not on that. He's not on that. It's a different. It's another thing that I asked on.
Okay, got it.
You know, it's like family and friends.
I got it.
You know, guys in Medina.
Oh, no.
Just that idea. Most of them are only in Medina.
Okay.
Come on, guys. You should not be talking. Anything you should be doing is reciting the poem. It's not having a conversation. In fact, you know, Abu Anas is on this line. He remembers we used to do this. We used to go into the old masjid and there would be brothers lined up sleeping, or their beds would be there. We would go from one to the other, reciting the daily poem to those people and getting the shah back and forth. And that's how we got strong in reciting whatever the poem was and whatever the shah was over and over. So he knows exactly what we're doing here. Alhamdulillah. Anybody who wants to know the Arabic sources for this, you can go to Shaykh Saadi's book on Qawaid al-Fiqhiyya. Okay? Here it is, what is an Arabic poem. الدين مبني على المصالح في جلبه وترك المصالح مثل القبائح. You know, so that's like that. النية شرط في كل عمل هي مصالح. You know. Alhamdulillah. Okay, guys, let's wrap it up. Let's come back over to your seats, please. Let's go. Everybody make it back. How was that practice, everybody? Did you benefit from it? You see, this is the thing that we have to do. We have to, hey, my son. This is the thing, guys. You have to practice. We have to go back to, ladies. انتهينا قد قضينا وانتهينا. We're finished. Listen, we have to go back to relying on each other and helping each other to get to where we need to get. It's a lot of fun to practice and learn from each other, but you always have to be on point and not turn it into something that it's not. You're here to learn. And the practice that you can do, we have fun, but we're not playing. Right?
Right.
So let's do it. Intentions will decide the rulings of an act. Halal unravels with positive effect. Haram is harmful, the opposite of good. Corruptive, destructive is never understood. So the hardships and harms have to be removed, relieved of or eased up, in some way soothed. Doubt does not count because it is not pure. So it cannot remove what you know for sure. And unless we have proof that it has to be denied, then a people's practice can always be applied. Okay, now stop for a second. I don't want you to look at it. I want you to have it open in your book, and then when you get scared that you don't know, then you look. Only then and then. Then and only then. Because what will happen is this. You'll memorize where every line is on the page. Because you won't be looking around, where is it, where is it, where is it? You do that one time, and then instantly your mind will remember where everything is on the page, so when you look down, you know what you're looking for. That's teaching you to have a photographic memory. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
So look at your paper. And if you didn't, then you look here. You can't hardly see it. I wrote it real small. I did that on purpose. Everything we do it here. There's a science to the madness. No, because we're training you to remember it. Okay?
Yes.
So when you see it, you get a little bit of information and it helps you get the rest of the way. I want you to pull from your memory. And don't get used to crutches. You will not be able to pull it out of the pad when you need to use this. You're going to have to pull it out of your heart. Okay? It's got to be part and parcel of what you are. And that's why we try to make it easy to remember. Intentions will decide
The ruling of an act. Halal unravels with the positive effect. Haram is harmful, the opposite of good. corruptive, destructive is never understood. So the hardships and harms have to be removed.
Stop. Time out. Put emphasis on have to be removed. Because listen to that. Understand the intention behind that. The whole of the deen is about this principle. So the hardships and harms
have to be removed.
That's the whole reason for Tawheed. To remove the hardships and harm of kufr and shirk. Right?
Yes.
So the hardships and harms
have to be removed.
Relieved of or eased up.
In some way soothed.
Doubt does not count because it is not pure. Put some stink on that.
It is not pure.
Doubt does not count because it is not pure. So it cannot remove.
Well, we know for sure.
Okay, time. From this principle is innocent before proven.
Guilty.
You get the point?
Yes, sir.
These are principles, and this is what it's born from. The believer is believed. Doubt does not count because it
is not pure.
So it cannot remove.
Well, we know for sure.
That's why we don't listen to gossip. Right?
Yes.
That's one of the most destructive things. Because we give it credence. But they said you was there. No, baby, it wasn't me. What? Doubt does not count because it
is not pure.
Meaning it's not 100%. So it cannot remove what we
know for sure.
And unless we have proof that it has to be denied, what does it has to be denied? Why? Because it's haram and it's harmful. And Allah would tell us that. And His Messenger would exemplify that. So unless we have proof that it has to be denied, then a people's practice can always be applied. Put some feeling there. Put some emotion there. Bilal Phillips back in the days, Hafidhullah, he taught us an amazing lesson I still remember. This is back in the 90s. He said the difference between the believer and their study and the kafir and their study. He said what the kafir does, he factualizes his emotions. But the believer does actually the opposite. He emotionalizes the facts. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So be that. Intentions will decide.
The rulers of the act.
Halal unravels with a
Positive effect.
Haramun is harmful, the opposite of good. Corruptive, destructive, is never understood. So the hardships and harms
have to be removed.
Relieved of or eased up in some way soothed. Doubt does not count because it is not pure. So it cannot remove.
Well, we know for sure.
And unless we have proof
that it has to be denied, then the people's practice can always be applied.
Again, let's do it again.
Intentions will decide the rules of an act. Halal will travel with a positive effect. Haram is harmful, the opposite of good.
Time out. You guys, I'm not accepting that from you guys. I'm hearing the ladies too much. Come on, let's start again, guys. Raw.
Intentions will decide the rulings of an act. Halal is harmful with a positive effect. Haram is harmful, the opposite of good. Corruptive, destructive is never understood. So the hardships and harms have to be removed, relieved of or eased up in some way soothed.
Doubt does not count because it is not pure. So it cannot
remove what we know for sure.
And unless we have proof
that it has to be denied, then the people's practice can always be applied.
Okay, so this is what we want you to know. This is what we want to have known. I want you to go home, and before Monday, I want you to recite this so much. This is how we practice this. Intentions will decide the rulings of an act. Halal unravels with a positive effect. Intentions will decide the rulings of an act. Halal unravels with a positive effect. Intentions will decide the rulings of an act. Halal unravels with a positive effect. Say it about 10 times. And then go to the next one. Haram is harmful, the opposite of good. Corruptive, destructive is never understood. And then when you finish saying that, then go back to the top. Intentions will decide the rulings of an act. Halal unravels with a positive effect. Haram is harmful, the opposite of good. Corruptive, destructive is never understood. Intentions will decide the rulings of an act. Halal unravels with a positive effect. Haram is harmful, the opposite of good. Corruptive, destructive is never understood. Intentions will decide the rulings of an act. Halal unravels with a positive effect. Haramun is harmful, the opposite of good, corruptive, destructive, is never understood. So the hardships and harms relieved up or eased up in some way, soothed. Intention will decide the rulings of an act. You see how I'm going? And keep going and keep going. And then when you get to the bottom, do this by itself for a while. And unless we have proof that it has to be denied, then the people's practice can always be applied. And unless we have proof that it has to be denied, then the people's practice can always be applied. Why? So that when you get back down there, it's not the weakest of them. You don't lose. Does that make sense? And you say it over and over and over and over again, 500 times. Okay? Seriously. You know, there's a Shaikh in Mauritania that he's passed away, rahimahullah, but he was famous for working and pulling up salt. Okay? But he was known as one of the best shuyukh in Mauritania. And so the people would go to him to study with this Shaikh. And he'd say, okay, go ahead, recite. But Shaikh, you know, you working. Man, go ahead and recite. And he'd be working, and then when someone made a mistake, he'd stop and say, man, that's a mistake. It should say 6Y Jesus, and he'd correct them. And he'd be giving his explanation. And they were amazed at the casualness, the personality that he puts to the knowledge. You get my point? He's talking you through it. That was a thing that was really different. It's talking to you and giving you, dropping pearls. But it ain't costing nothing. He says, Shaikh, how is it that you do that? He says, because I ain't got no time. I ain't got no time to go back to the library, open the book up, look at it again and find out, then forget, come back again. So I just read it 500 times the first time. Saying myself all that walking back and forth. Okay? Then I read the explanation 100 times. Now I'm good. I have the skeleton, and I have the meat and potatoes that goes along with it. And then everything else is water under the bridge, meaning it's going to add to it. You get it? So that all that other reading is going to help out in that regard. But as long as you got that skeleton, you can always fall back on that. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
And with a poem, it's easy because you'll know when something's missing. Because the rhyme allows you to find it. And then you say it enough times, you say, oh yeah, that's the word that goes there. Capiche?
Yes.
All right. Intentions will decide.
The ruling of an act.
Halalun is
Rivals with a positive effect.
haramun is harmful.
The opposite of good.
Corruptive, destructive.
Is never understood.
So the hardships and harms
Have to be removed.
relieved of or eased up.
In some way soothed.
Doubt does not count because
It is not pure.
so it cannot.
Remove what we know for sure.
And unless we have proof
That it has to be denied.
that a people's practice
Can always be applied.
can always be applied.
Always be.
Remember that. It's an allowance. We make it difficult. You can't do that. You get my point?
Yeah.
We make it. The law's not trying to make it hard. Huwa alladhi khalaqa lakum ma fil ardi jami'an. Everything is lawful. Out of the law, when we get to the next chapter is the 5 rulings, the 5 legal rulings plus
2.
you'll realize that there's only 2 categories. What's one category?
Halal.
And what's the other category?
Haram.
How many things are in the haram? One. How many things are in the halal? 4. So the inclination here is that mostly everything is halal. But what's our mentality? As though everything is haram. We got a problem. Ease up. It's a law's deen. Even though we don't like it, it's still lawful. It's the qadr of Allah. Does that make sense?
Yes. That's miseducation.
Yes, that's why I told you to write that book down. Countering the conspiracy. Where's my book? You guys, see, a Muslim, you see, I was reaching. I was like, listen, a Muslim will find money on the ground and be like, oh, somebody dropped $1,000. They'll see a book on the ground and say, oh, let me hold that for you. Right, let me hold it. When he come asking for it a couple of times, I say, oh, yeah, I took it home. Yeah, give me my book, man. Yeah, take the picture.
The conspiracy of
There's a couple of volumes.
It's 4 volumes.
counter.
Yes, let's take prison. What is this? Okay, Jazakallah khair. Did you get to look at this? I'll pass it to the ladies. Okay, guys, I expect you to know this. And I expect you also to know the maqasid al-Sharia. What is the maqasid al-Sharia? Islam has come
To serve, protect, prioritize, and always respect my deen, my mind, my wealth, my honor, my lineage, myself.
See how easy that is now? Islam has come to preserve and protect, prioritize, and
Always respect
my deen, my mind, my wealth,
my lineage,
I feel
myself.
so personally taken care of in that regard. Okay? So, this is what you have to know next. And then we'll move on, okay? And remember, this is gone to only when we can't find it directly in the what?
Quran, the Sunnah, or the Ijma.
In the Ijma. Those are the first primary sources. Okay? And even though everything we find in here is going to exemplify this, but this is to help us understand some type of instances that are not directly spoken about or taken away from that. Okay?
Yes.
Pass the book back so the ladies can see. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
What is the name of the book?